me!
Is it okay now? Can you end it?
Oh my gosh, what is happening?
No.
Not dirty.
Come at me, Ben! Well, you killed me, what am I saying?
Nikki, I threw everything now. Are you?
What is happening? Oh my gosh, all I hear is dun 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 dun.
Yes. I killed them.
Oh wow.
I win.
Oh.
Hey.
Ben, you want to pull my old mic to E-rape him?
Fuck you.
You guys remember my old mic?
It was horrible.
I messed all of you guys' eardrums.
Make you stand still.
Even mine.
Thank you.
Hold on, make it. Hold up, stand up here, go up here. I'm gonna make a room for you. You ready? You'll like it, okay? You ready for quick editing?
Oh, I know you want me. I know you want me.
It's a show everybody would like.
Can I
No!
Well,
Yep.
do that.
Can I get a gun first so if anyone harasses me, I shoot them?
Nah,
No,
Mickey,
they
I'll
won't-
bump you in the
they-
face.
They won't,
Like I said I would.
like how you pump him in real life.
Pumpernickel him.
Oh, Ben, can I watch?
Do you
can I
like
watch, can I
stop?
watch, can
I'm
I
just
watch, can I
not. I'm
watch?
not even done getting my loot, you kid.
Ben, I'm gonna watch, alright?
Stop
Ben,
it,
I'm gonna
kid.
watch, alright? I'm gonna watch.
Kid, I said
I'm
stop.
watching.
I know what you're doing.
Quality.
Mine's
I'm
better.
telling you, quality. Make it come over here. Do what I call
Mine's
quality.
better.
Okay.
They're gonna like mine better. And Mickey, come up here. Mickey, come here. Mickey, come here.
Ben, you're not supposed to be up there.
Oh my god.
Mickey, come here.
Ben, it's only
No,
supposed to be
I did.
Right
Mickey.
here.
It's only supposed to be
You
Mickey.
just killed me.
No. But first they're gonna give a good luck text, you know?
Oh my god, dude, who's this default? It's so annoying.
Me, Josh.
we'll just wait.
Shut up, Josh. Why did you
There
have
you
to
go.
diggle me in the
Alright,
face?
now you can strip tase, okay? Give us some
Or we just kill him. Kill him out.
Stop him, Arrow. This is mine.
Oh, I know where he is. I know exactly where I think
Everyone,
he is.
everyone kill Mickey because Black
What
Widow
the fuck
died.
is that?
No! Help me, man!
Oh, guys, everyone kill Black Widow because Black Widow died in the game. And yeah,
Shut up! I know she died. Gosh, fuck off.
I haven't seen the movie
Everyone-
yet, you brats.
Me neither,
You're
actually.
welcome.
Fuck you,
You're welcome.
Josh. Fuck
Josh.
you.
That's such a
well, you guys,
brat.
Arturo told me to spoil it. He muted you guys and told me to spoil it. So
It's not at all what happened.
It did.
why do you lose?
I'm leaving now.
Aiden left.
Fuck me.
Man, Mickey got rage. GG rage quit. What do we do now, boys?
We could do squads.
Mickey's in game chat, so I guess we go in game chat.
Hey, why'd you
I only
leave?
said that part. I only said that part. That's it.
I'm not trusting
Oh,
anyone.
Iron Man
I'm just gonna
dies.
Stay here.
Why'd you say that? Oh my
I didn't know if it's
dude.
true, Josh. You told me
Oh
that.
my god. Oh my
I
god.
didn't.
You disintegrate. Die.
Shut up. I haven't even
Please.
seen it yet. Josh told me that in my freaking stream chat.
Disintegrate, please.
Why don't you disintegrate? I don't even know if it's
Hey,
true
that-
or not.
Hey, it wasn't me, Mickey, so you can't blame me. It was him.
I don't even know if it's true or not.
The Then why'd you say it?
Because it was you. Told me.
Yeah, but you didn't have to say it.
Yeah, that's disrespect.
Fine, I'll just kick you in the face.
So, do you want to use my simple battle royale map again?
Sure, let's go.
Go punch up.
Alright.
Here. Hey, do you guys want to do Zone Wars? I'll put Zone Wars in. Yo, did you hear that, Daniel? Why'd you spoil it, man? Like,
Well, you spoiled it for me, so I might as well spoil it for everyone else.
now I told you it was a lie.
Ah, I didn't know that. I didn't hear you.
Over here. No, what are you doing? Don't put Zone Wars in. Hey. Yeah, it's over here. I made one. Come here.
Okay.
Ben,
Over here,
when we
kid.
in game chat, Daniel's basically spoiled it for Mickey.
As a joke.
Well, he doesn't
Well-
know if it's fake or not.
I don't know if it's fake or not, that's why.
No,
What did you
why?
tell
Freaking Joshua told
He
me.
said that. He said that Iron Man dies.
He does? Why'd you actually tell me? I thought it was fake.
That's true. That's true.
It is. It is true. He dies.
Brats. I wanted to go see it for my mom's birthday. Now I'm just gonna know what happens.
I'm not. No, we're not gonna tell you how he dies.
Thanos. Snap. How,
No, he doesn't snap. Thanos snaps him.
I don't think that.
Josh, you just made it worse.
Yeah, lady, didn't Thanos kill him? 100%, right? 100%. 100%.
Okay, now I know it's fake because you guys are saying 100%.
No, 100%, man. Like he snapped and boom, he's gone.
But 100% Iron Man died.
Yeah, Iron Man dies. Yes.
I'm
You
gonna
should
see
have
it
said
tomorrow
that.
for my mom's birthday, you guys
Why?
brats.
But you made a mistake. You said the fucking real spoiler.
No, but here's the thing. He told Mickey, and that's why Mickey rage quit. He's like, I'm not joking. But Widow dies though. Black Widow dies. Black Widow dies.
Oh my god, you don't need to say it again!
Okay, fine. I'll stop saying stuff.
Okay, you
Guys,
just need to stop
guys,
talking for the rest of your
Can I
life.
tell you the biggest spoiler ever in Marvel? Oh my god, Thanos is not alive. I can't believe it. Such a big surprise. In every fucking Marvel movie, the villain will die no matter what, okay?
Actually, no, you're wrong, Ben.
It's not really he died, okay?
They killed a different timeline.
You didn't say that! I didn't know that!
Oh, I thought you were actually. I thought you knew that. So I'm like, I'm sorry. Stop killing each other.
Could
What
you
did she
tell your
say?
sister to
My
freaking...
my sister says I'm spoiling Endgame, but she fucking told me all these spoilers, by the way.
She did. Don't kill me! Don't kill me! Why are you guys killing me, guys? This dude's gonna stay there.
I can't even...
The game didn't start, boys. Stop. Stop.
I have all the loot picked up anyways.
But he's not even here.
No, he isn't.
Oh.
Because we don't know if he's dead or not, okay?
He's
I
not
can't
dead.
get out. This is not
We
fair.
don't know if he's dead or not.
No one kill anyone. Don't. Don't. Stop building. Stop.
Joshua, stop pickaxing me. Ben.
I'm Joshua, what you talking about?
No, I got rid of a storm because of you guys. Thanks. Thanks, you mean. Got rid of a tree now.
And
Oh my.
now we go tell Mickey that Ant-Man died.
Yeah, tell Mickey Ant-Man dies.
Ant-Man didn't die, okay.
Or does he?
Or does he?
I don't know. I'm just trying to say that if it's fucking true.
Oh, how about we tell him freaking Captain
Shit.
America dies?
What if I told you?
How about we tell him
That
Hawkeye
was-
dies?
You know the
Hawkeye.
truth about Captain America. Does any of you guys know what happened to him? Because I do.
Captain America
I know,
never dies.
I
He
know.
probably just goes into the
Because
freaking...
some bitches
like,
came up and started
no,
smoking
Ben.
and shit.
Guys, what if I told you?
If Falcon's black.
Is Falcon black?
Falcon's black? I thought he was white.
What the hell?
I thought he was American.
I thought he
Stop
would
killing
just
each other.
make one. I thought he was
Let's go in
Mexican.
Snow kill each other. You guys kill each other. Agree.
Kick you in your own face.
Definitely not
Avengers!
true.
Avengers!
Guys, you know what I told Mickey? I told him that Thanos killed Ant-Man. He went to another time zone and then took him out when he was born and killed him.
What did Mickey say?
He said nothing. I don't think he heard. I don't know.
How'd you
that's
tell him?
Not true.
How'd you tell
And
him?
once if I told you it was.
It's a complete lie. I know who died. Everybody.
I know too.
Literally died.
I go.
Oh, yeah.
Alright. I could say who dies. Like I could say.
no.
I could say like. I
Well,
could
if
say
you do,
everyone.
I'm literally gonna beat you up.
I could
Why
say
did you watch
everyone.
it?
My sister spoiled it for me, like yours. All of it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, she didn't spoil all of it. She spoiled the end. That's it.
Yeah, that's the same with me. Every important shit, like who died and shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all I asked her was, okay, the first question and the only answer I wanted from her is, did Thanos die? Okay. She said, like, she literally told me what happened to him.
It's not that. It's not Thanos that you know. It's like
Thanos.
Thanos
Think about when
becomes.
he was a baby. When he was a baby, he started crying, took a shit, and Captain Marvel went back and it went pew pew when he was taking a shit, and he's dead for sure now.
Alright. So why is I told you Thanos comes with a sword instead of a gauntlet?
I know a sword. I know he has a sword. That was not even a spoiler. They already unveiled that. If you don't know that, then well, fucking read your trailers and shit.
Yeah, that was before he reached a gauntlet.
Why did he switch exactly?
I don't know.
So why
Like,
did he
switch
hide
to
you know,
sword to
all I
gauntlet.
want to know, did he hide the fucking Infinity Stones from them?
No, they went back in time.
I know that. That was
Yeah, I
already
knew they were
speculated.
gonna
That
go
was
back in time. I'm gonna rewatch the
So when they
trailers.
go back in time, Thanos does not have the stones.
You know, I kind of think that's a little boring plot. Go back in time. You know.
I'm not gonna spoil the
Everybody knew
rest, but I will say,
it. No, shush.
I'm gonna say at like almost at the end of the part, everyone starts laughing. It's amazing. Dang.
Tell me how.
Why
did
you laugh?
No, did your sisters need her? Oh, you watching the trailer?
Shut up, I'm rewatching them.
They don't show. They go back in time.
No, watch the one
Yeah, I
that
know.
was just released. There was another one released 10 days before. It's pretty. It's not really. Actually, it is.
Like, it goes back in the movies. It goes back in the movies.
It goes back in the movie. but
Yeah,
at
I'm
the
watching
end
that one
it
right
shows it shows the part where Doctor Strange is walking with like
Oh, bro,
someone.
you're gonna love at the end, bro. All of your favorite heroes die.
Shit.
Josh, you wanna know what we
lying,
should do?
I know.
I'm,
they did
I'm
die.
talking about Infinity War. I'm talking about Infinity War.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Let me just give out a disclaimer, okay? Daniel, this is straight fact. What do you think happens when a person loses their contract, or like the contract expires?
They go out of the movie business. Well, for that movie, like those series.
So what do you know who lost their contract, correct? Who,
Black Widow and
expired?
Iron Man.
A lot more.
Who lost the contract?
A lot more.
Oh yeah,
The-
don't
the
forget
ex-
Captain
the contracts
America.
expire. Yes.
When?
Like, no, this year. This is the last movie. Their contract expires.
Yeah, except for
there's
Tom
no
Holland.
no more Marvel movies?
No, except for
Oh,
Tom
no, there will
Holland.
be. There'll be more, but my sister said they're gonna be PC girl, which I don't believe.
Wait, are they gonna be different Tony
Oh,
Stark?
by the way, there's no post end credits at the end.
I know. It's because it's the end.
Yeah.
Star, Ben, by the way, Star Wars coming out.
I don't like it. I feel like they just destroyed the sequel. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm still gonna watch it because there may be some meaning still left in the.
Why are we thinking the same idea?
I don't know. I guess it's sort of pushing me out.
Bro, I haven't watched it yet, but my sister only told me something. Guys, search up Endgame ending scene. Oh,
Endgame trailer 3?
no, search up Endgame ending scene. Search it up, come on. You wanna do it? Come play it in the mic, but close your eyes.
I haven't seen this trailer yet.
To everyone who's not in this room, to try.
I actually really like that because like it doesn't really spoil it, but like it's like just it's a very nostalgic, you know.
Yeah, like that.
Bro, I love the part when Tony Stark, brings out the sword that he made. It's amazing.
Wait, what's the? Oh, that one? His in Infinity War?
No, Endgame.
Bitch! I don't want to know he has a sword.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joshua
I kind of knew he had a sword because in Infinity War.
I'm just joking. I'm trying to throw you guys off the game. He doesn't have a sword. And if he did, it would be probably made out of his, like...
You know Captain America survives and Bucky sacrifices himself?
Tickets on sale now.
Just kidding. He does it. It's a lot
You
different.
sure?
No, I know what happened.
Whoever this kid is about to die, dude.
Stay up.
I got third party.
If you find this recording, don't think
Oh my god, you relax.
part of the journey is the end. Just for the record, being adrift in space with zero promise of rescue is more fun than it sounds. For a lot of me now, 4 days ago, oxygen will run out tomorrow morning. I mean it. When I drift.
All I want to know is how did Iron Man get out of get away from the pod?
I don't know. Don't know.
Pepper Paws, I betcha. I don't know.
What?
No, I feel like it's that one girl, that one
Nebula.
yeah, Nebula.
He was with them on the bus.
Yeah.
Bruce did exactly what he said he was gonna do.
I can't wait to watch Endgame, dude. My sister only told me the end, but like a part of the end, not all of it.
Well, I'm gonna go see it with my mom for her birthday, so
We lost.
When
All of us.
tomorrow, probably.
you said today.
Lost friends.
Well, today I didn't know we had this thing for church, so.
We lost a part of ourselves.
Cat tells everyone to move on, but not us to hold on.
I know it is.
Kid, don't you,
Because I don't know
bro?
does it.
But Cat tells us to move on, but not us to hold on. Ben.
Yeah?
I'm gonna watch the Endgame movie. It's only told me parts of the movie, but are you gonna watch it too? Or you only told me the end?
When are you gonna watch it?
Around like like around Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know.
That's me. Can you buzz me?
Which movie is it, yours?
I don't know yet, but I'm also probably. Like,
I wonder how Ant-Man got out of the quantum realm.
Why?
I'm doing it on Thursday.
Ooh.
We were gonna do it on Wednesday, but we had to play, Josh.
Oh
Remember?
yeah, so probably Thursday.
And it's 3 hours long. There's one at 6 o'clock. Incorrect.
What is more real? A world we are born into? Or we create ourselves? It's time for our journey to begin. Excelsior!
It's really.
Stop it, Ben!
I know he was coming. That's why.
Ryan Aries here. In case you don't
Oh my
watch
God.
all 18 previous films
films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Ben,
and
bro, if we
everything
watch
you
it at the
need to
same
know
time.
before seeing Avengers Infinity War. Thousands of years ago, these ice aliens invaded Norway, but they were stopped by super powerful, handsome aliens from a realm called Asgard. The ancient Norwegians were so grateful that they started to worship the Asgardians. The king of Asgard, Odin, hit a really powerful object, the Space Infinity Stone, on Earth. There's 6 of these stones, and they all have different abilities and are very important, so get used to hearing about them. Later, in 1942, a superpowered Nazi with eczema named the Red Skull finds the stone and uses it to make laser guns. Pew pew! Red Skull leads a group called Hydra, and remember them for later too. Meanwhile, Steve Rogers is a weakling with a heart of gold, but after a few super steroids and a really dangerous tanning bed, he gets superpowers and becomes Captain America. Steve leaves behind a career in show business to fight Nazis with his friends, who include his best friend Bucky, R.I.P. Bucky, Peggy, hashtag bring back Agent Carter, and swashbuckling inventor Howard Stark. Howard uses vibranium, the strongest metal on Earth, to make Steve a bulletproof frisbee. Cap fights the Red Skull, who makes the classic Nazi mistake of staring too long at a celestial object, and then Steve saves the world by crashing an airplane. R.I.P. Steve. Peggy and Howard go on to found a spy organization called the Strategic Homeland Intervention and Logistics Division, or SHIELD for short.
Haha, GG,
About
Mom.
70 years, and Howard Stark's kid Tony is a fun-loving soul who got Scrooge McDuck rich by making weapons for the military. But one of his own missiles puts shrapnel in his heart, and he's kidnapped by terrorists. He escapes by making himself a super suit powered by a small reactor in his chest that also keeps him alive. Then he has
What alcoholics refer to as a moment of clarity.
builds a new suit to fight evil and calls himself Iron Man. He fights some bad guys, including his evil business partner, who was behind everything all along. And along the way, he falls in love with his assistant, Pepper Potts, and meets Bill Coulson, a SHIELD agent, and Nick Fury, leader of SHIELD. A few months later, Tony's being
Well
poisoned
then,
by the
so
arc
you didn't watch
reactor
the
that
third,
powers
right?
the Iron Man suit and keeps him alive.
There's that Harkins theater.
I've seen all of
Maybe-
them, by the way.
You know Harkins? Harkins at
Oh, yeah, yeah,
where we
yeah,
watched
yeah,
this
Justin
Yeah,
Hammer
that's what I watched in Disney. That's what I watched in Disney Boy.
awesome birthday party.
The
and fights his
Incredibles
best
too.
friend,
That one
Colonel
with
James
all the
Rhodes.
cooking.
Rhodes says,
Oh, I just watched it with my family.
snatches a suit
Huh?
for the military. Scarlett Johansson plays Pepper's assistant, but it
Oh,
turns
wait,
out that she's
Edward,
actually a
what the hell?
SHIELD agent called Black Widow, which you would only know if you had seen a
What is it?
trailer, a poster, or any other bit of marketing for Iron Man 2. With a little help from a video of his dead dad, Tony
Okay.
invents a new element that saves his life.
GG,
All I'm doing is getting second place
Well,
now.
we're actually not going Harkins. We're going Edwards in one place.
You in the Southwest
I don't know
region.
that.
You guys
I know
remember
this.
Odin,
Well, I
right?
don't know
Now
what
he's
we're
got
going
two
to.
sons. Thor, captain of the varsity space
Did I get a
fighter,
heads up?
kind of
If I go
douche, and
Edward,
Loki, a
we're
know-it-all
gonna go at the
wise-ass
same
who
time, you
owns
know?
Rock. Odin wants Thor to become king so he can finally retire, but
I said they went on
Frost
Friday,
giants invade and
which was
spoil his
yesterday.
coronation. Bro is crazy pissed and he takes his space bros
What?
to kill some frost giants, but that's an active war, bro, so Odin takes away his powers and sends him to New
If she
Mexico.
went like right after school, which I wanted to go watch Endgame, but
Scientists to include Natalie Portman, and the two of them smile at each other.
Let me tell you one
alone.
thing. Remember the movie's 3 hours or like 20
Back in
minutes long.
Asgard,
That's
Loki finds out he's
ridiculously long.
actually a frost
but
giant
then you can
and
also
yells
watch
at
their
Odin
music
till he
because
falls
people
asleep.
like in the next week people are
Loki
gonna be
becomes
like,
king, and Thor's
you
bros
never
figure
know.
out that Loki was actually behind
No.
everything all along.
That's illegal and they're not
Back on Earth, Thor
affiliating with any
sacrifices his
crime.
life to a
Like, no,
killer
I'm
robot
not
and his
be
powers
talking
return.
clearly
He
because I have a
stops
lot of
Loki
food in
from
my
committing
mouth.
genocide, and
Is
his
it
brother
chicken?
falls into an abyss. Elsewhere, the military is
God,
attacking a
Lord.
giant green
Is
Jack
it?
Nicholson monster called the Hulk. The monster is actually
Aha.
Bruce Banner, a scientist who can't let himself get angry or have sex, or else he'll turn into
Mickey,
a slightly
not
smaller
Mickey,
version of Brock
You
Lesnar.
should have not
This is
gone
done
out.
with Liv Tyler, but her dad, Thunderbolt Ross,
Daniel's at the
later
PhD.
hates Banner because Liv
She's
Tyler's
at the
fathers
PhD.
always hate her boyfriends. Ross gives another soldier
My trap played him.
that guy's an even bigger
You know, I
dude
put
than
it
Hulk, so they throw down on
in, bro.
125th Street and wreck
Ben.
Hulk, which no one in the
There's only
Civil
one way
Cage
out.
ever mentions. Banner goes into
Yeah.
hiding, and now maybe he can control the Hulk.
I want to
Sometimes
get
it just
off
depends what the
because I'm
screenplay needs from him.
tired, but
And
then you
after
get
this, he has a
off. I don't
completely
want to
new
leave.
face.
I don't
and
care.
S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'm gonna
finds
go by
Captain
11.
America's frozen body, and it
I'm
turns
gonna
out
get
he's
off,
still
yeah.
alive and has a
The
bad
brain
You don't get
is
costume
not. Duh.
You're like the only person that does,
Mind
actually,
control
because I
scepter
asked
and
everybody
uses it
else
to
and they
brainwash a
didn't
SHIELD archer named Hawkeye.
Wow,
Together, they
I have
steal
to
the
wear
Space Stone.
muscle,
Nick Fury
fake
recruits
muscle,
Iron
dude.
Man, Banner, and Captain America to find
That's easy
the
to
stone.
find, though.
Thor shows up, they capture Loki,
No, it's
and
not,
like
'cause we don't have any.
he stands behind
muscle
glass
pack.
and says creepy things to a female protagonist. The heroes
Yeah.
argue
I'm
their
Hercules.
attack. Loki kills Coulson and sets his massive
Bro,
weapon into
relax.
action.
Do you think
Space Stone
they
opens
should
a
have
portal
gave us
and
more
aliens
time?
pour through.
They only
The
gave us
Yes.
1 month
call
to
themselves
for.
the Avengers,
First of all, they didn't even tell us our report. They told us there's shit.
Meanwhile, in space, it turns out
and then
Loki
they
was
took our
actually
parts,
working
and they
for
gave us
this
1
guy,
week to
Thanos,
test.
and that
Ridiculous.
Thanos was behind
2
everything
weeks for
all
one.
along.
Okay, 1 week for the
Thanos
parts,
I
and
should have
then
clipped that,
another week for the
honestly.
play.
Stones, and
And
he uses
little
his 2 adopted assassin daughters, Gamora and Nebula, to help find them. The sisters hate him
Part.
and each
1
other.
week,
There's
yeah,
2
like
planets that are
Mr.
just wrapping up a 1,000-year war.
And can
the
you
Kree
believe
Empire
this?
and Xandar.
That
the Kree
in
radical named
5th grade they
Ronan
gave us like
Accuser hates
how much
Xandar
time?
and wants Thanos to
2
destroy
months?
the planet. Thanos is like, cool, but first
And
you
they-
gotta get me this orb. But a guy
they're
from
really
Earth named Peter
dedicated, you
Quill
know?
snags the orb before Ronan's goons.
I feel like we're doing horrible. I don't
think
think we're gonna do good at the all to play.
Gamora
Did
fights
you
Peter
hear
for
us
the
sing,
orb, but then they
dude?
both go to jail with
We
bounty
don't
hunters
speak
named
nice,
Rocket, a
dude.
talking
It's
raccoon,
horrible.
and Groot, a talking
It's
tree.
like
In jail, they join Drax, who hates Ronan for killing his
I
family,
feel like we're
and they
like
all escape to
so
sell the orb to the
unprofessional.
Collector, otherwise
I
known
think
as the
Nelson
Space
class
Order.
learned
Space
it
Order
what?
says the orb actually
Also,
contains
the
Alright, I
dance
think-
is horrible. I have to admit.
explodes, and through a
Yeah, I
series
think,
of
but
mishaps,
I
Ronan
honestly
ends
think
up with the
Nelson's
stone.
class
Then
learned
this
it.
unlikely band of
Bye.
misfits teams
Yelling.
up to stop Ronan
You
from
yell.
destroying
I can hear
Xandar.
you all the
Groot
time.
dies, but
I
is
know, but
reborn as
who's
baby
when
Groot.
we're on the
And
music
then
part where
Daring
it says away,
Police
he's
lock
like
up
away,
Power
away,
Stone in
away,
their
away,
space
away, away, away,
suit.
away.
No one will ever find him. A few months later, in the
Oh,
40s,
Ben.
meet Peter's long
Hey!
I'm trying to
Guardians
make
make
you, okay?
friends with an alien named
Not
Mantis, who helps
trap
Ego sleep and
box,
hides
dude.
his rampant
I
child.
know they're gonna
Rocket and
trap,
Groot are
but I don't
captured
want
by
to eat, you know.
mutinous space
But
pirates.
like,
Then they
you
help
didn't expect
Yondu
it to be
take
like
control
that
of the
much,
ship.
though.
In
Like,
a scene that
like-
becomes
No, I
a lot
expected it.
darker when you change out the music.
Daniel actually
Nebula
wins
tracks
one
down
on the
Gamora,
board.
they
That's
fight for a
not
while, and
it.
afterwards they kind of like each other. I just wanted a sister! It turns out that Ego is a
Report
prick of a
me? I don't
deadbeat
wanna
dad
report
who killed
anyone.
Peter's mom, wants to conquer the universe, and breaks his kids' toys.
Next, you know, I just get a
What the heck?
notification.
You
You have been reported by
Planet,
Reese,
Yondu
please.
dies, and celebrity guest stars show up for the funeral.
You don't get notifications
To go
when
through
you're
Thanos, and Groot becomes a teenager.
You say it's
Elsewhere in
anonymous.
space, Loki is in Asgardian jail, and Thor is finishing up the war by killing his
And
friends.
what
One
is me?
Rip-off from the movie Troy, and also the Bible. Jane slips through a dimensional portal
But
and
you
gets
won't, you know?
possessed by
Yeah, you
another
can't.
Infinity Stone.
I
This one's
can't.
called the Ether,
You know
which
what's
controls
really
reality.
funny
Dark
is that
elves,
there's only
these
3
ancient
people,
enemies
so
of
all I
Asgard,
do is
want
just
the
wait
Ether
for
so they
them
can
to
throw it
fight,
into a
and then I'll
space
just come
eclipse
over
into
and
the
join the
universe.
party.
Thor takes Jane to meet
20
some space
rounds, you're
doctors
on
on
11.
Asgard, but the Dark Elves invade, kill Thor's mom, and then Thor breaks Loki out of jail, and they take Jane to a deserted planet to destroy the Ether. But instead, the Dark Elves steal it, Loki dies, and Thor and Jane walk through a convenient plot hole back to Earth.
Ben, are
There,
you
they team up
expecting?
with their science friends to drop
No,
the
I'm
ship
playing.
on the Ninth Doctor, and everyone is safe. Thor turns down the throne of Asgard so he can make out with his girlfriend. The Asgardians give the Space Hoarder the Ether, and it turns out that Loki is alive and pretending to be his dad. It's a good thing his mom's dead, right? Meanwhile, back on Earth, Captain America is working for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah,
alongside
go boss.
Black Widow, and
1v1
things seem to
me
be
in the
going
airport.
fine until Nick Fury is fake
Yeah,
assassinated
you're
by a
gonna
covert
die.
operative called the Winter Soldier. Meanwhile, Robert Redford, head of the World Security Council, wants Captain America arrested. So Cap and Black Widow go on the run and make friends with Sam Wilson, an Air Force vet who uses robot wings.
But
They
everyone
find out
to
that S.H.I.E.L.D.
move
has been infiltrated by
on.
Hydra, and they're
What?
going to blow the hell out of the world with flying aircraft carriers. Then it turns out that Robert Redford was actually behind everything all along.
God.
Not only that, but Cap's best friend Bucky is alive
But
and was
every-
brainwashed to become the Winter
I'ma
Soldier.
take
In the end,
some white
Cap
dog
brings
to
down S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick
Thanos.
Fury
I'm
fakes
gonna
his own death, and Bucky goes on the run.
I'm
On the
addicted
West
to
Coast,
that.
Tony has
Back to hub,
PTSD
back to hub.
from nearly
Why?
dying in outer
Why they
space.
want me
He
at the
spends
court?
all his time in his basement
Well, I'm not
building
gonna
new
do that.
suits
So I'm
until a
my
terrorist named
hand is
Commander
hiding.
blows up his house. Then Tony goes to
Natalie,
Tennessee
by the
in
way,
charge
I'm
of his suit
undefeated.
and reluctantly
No one
mentor
has
the
ever
What do you
Jurassic
mean?
world. After
You gotta
studying
beat
it,
it.
he finds out
1v1
that the Commander is
edit
actually
course.
an
That's what
actor,
it's
and that
really
Guy
called.
Pearce has been behind everything all along.
I've never tried that before.
Tony,
start the-
Rhodey, and Pepper beat up
Once
Guy
you spawn in,
Pearce, save the president,
immediately,
and Tony
please do
puts
everything
Peter
right.
Pan
Even if you don't know, we'll do a second try if you don't know what to do. And right when you
I'm
spawn
just
in,
kidding.
you
He's
hit the
back
time
for the
and go.
next Avengers
Do not
movie.
come
The team
now.
is
Okay?
taking down a Hydra
Thank you
base
for
and
opening the door.
recapturing
Oh, I have
Loki's
to go
scepter.
now.
Hydra
Because I'm
used the scepter to
leaving.
give
I hope you guys have a
superpowers
wonderful
to Wanda
night.
and
After-
Pietro
alright.
Maximoff. Their
Natalie,
powers
after
are
this,
fast
I'm
and
gonna
she's
go,
weird. Tony uses the
off,
scepter to
dude.
give
Alright.
life to a murderous artificial intelligence called Ultron. Ultron
Now they
recruits the
join in
Maximoffs,
the
Wanda
airport.
gives the Avengers freaky visions, and Iron Man stops a Hulk rampage with super special armor. Then everybody has a sleepover at Hawkeye's house while Thor takes some space peyote and has a vision in a cave. Ultron breaks open Loki's staff to reveal the Mind Stone, another one of the Infinity Stones. He uses the stones and vibranium
I know what
and
you're watching.
artificial
You're
tissue
watching
to
this,
create a new body for
the
himself,
ones
which
that are
the Avengers
before,
steal.
too close to anything.
Wanda and Pietro
Infinity
learned the
War.
evil robot is actually an evil
Natalie,
robot,
join,
and they
hurry
joined
up.
the good guys.
1v1
The
edit
Avengers bring
parkour?
the body to life, and now it's called
Yeah.
the Vision, and they all team up to stop Ultron's evil army from
Want
destroying
to
the
spawn
world.
in?
Pietro
I'm going on
dies,
the
and
left
Hawkeye,
side.
Tony, and Thor
If
leave
you're going
the team,
right,
and
okay,
Hulk goes
ready?
into space. Oh yeah,
Alright,
he
hopefully
and
you
Black
don't
Widow are
cheat.
kind
Do
of a thing
everything
now.
right.
But he leaves,
I'm
so it
on
doesn't
the
matter.
right.
So
Okay.
now there's a
Go to
new
the one
team of
closest to you.
Avengers with Vision,
Alright, I'm
Wanda,
going.
I've never-
I'm
Wanda and
counting down.
Falcon all joining up. But not soon after this, Falcon gets in a fight with a new superhero named Ant-Man, whose superpower is to shrink down and talk to ants. His real name is Scott Lang. He's an ex-con computer hacker who just wants money to pay his child support. Just want my kids back. His shrinking suit was invented by a scientist named Hank Pym, who used to work at S.H.I.E.L.D. with Howard Stark and Peggy Carter. And he hired Scott to break into his old company and steal a new shrinking suit that the bad guy, this guy, just created to sell to Hydra. Along with Hank's daughter Hope and a few colorful ex-cons, they plan a suit heist, but the robbery is a bust, and Scott ends up defeating the bad guy by shrinking so small he enters the quantum realm, where the laws of time and space do not matter. Meanwhile, Thunderbolt Ross wants to register all superheroes so they work for the government. Tony feels guilty about creating a murder bot, so he signs on, but Steve refuses, and the issue splits the Avengers.
Oh my god, my
game's
glitch.
killing the King of Wakanda, which is the world's only source of vibranium. The news reports that Bucky did the bombing, so the new King of Wakanda, T'Challa, puts on a cat costume and goes after
have to get a
That's
punch
because
in
T'Challa is also the superpowered
Oh, I know
guardian
that.
of Wakanda, the Black
I know
Panther. But it turns out that a guy named
I'm on that right
Zemo
now.
framed Bucky, and he's been behind everything all along. What? Cap recruits a team to go after Zemo, and Tony recruits a team to go after
Oh my
Cap.
gosh, man, so bad.
A teenager from Queens with spider powers who's named Spider-Man. They have a big smashy fight where Rhodey is paralyzed. Then Cap and Bucky get away while Natasha switches sides to help them escape. Half the heroes go to underwater jail while Tony flies to Siberia to help Cap and Bucky stop Zemo. It turns out all Zemo really wanted was to protect the Avengers by showing Iron Man a video of Bucky killing his parents. That's a pretty plastic move.
If someone says something bad about you, you don't want me to tell you, right?
So everyone fights, the Avengers break up, Steve breaks his friends out of jail, and Bucky, like Dave Chappelle, goes to Africa to clear his head. Now he's no longer brainwashed, and the Wakandans call him the White Wolf, which is the nickname that this guy gave himself. Wakanda, by the way, is a hidden kingdom filled with super science. They use vibranium to do whatever the plot needs them to do, like make weapons, bullet trains, or heal people. Shuri, the princess of Wakanda, is smarter than Tony Stark and can invent pretty much anything that the screenplay needs. T'Challa becomes king of Wakanda and everything is fine until his pissed off American cousin Killmonger shows up, kicks his ass, and takes the throne. Killmonger wants to go to war with the rest of the world, but T'Challa shows up to reclaim his kingdom. There's a brief Wakandan civil war, which T'Challa wins with the help of Shuri, his badass bodyguards, the Dora Milaje, a spy named Nakia, a tribe that worships white gorillas, and Bilbo. In the end, T'Challa decides to open Wakanda up to the world and share their technology. Tony, meanwhile, is trying to groom young Peter Parker, who's actually Spider-Man, to join the Avengers. He gives him a suit that monitors his daily superhero routine. Peter's not very good at being a superhero, and he flat out sucks at keeping his secret identity. That's huge.
You're the Spider-Man.
What the?
He and his friend Ned are tracking down a flying guy called the Vulture, who's stealing tech that's left over from the alien invasion in the Avengers. Peter destroys one of the Staten Island ferries, and Tony takes the suit back. But the timing sucks because it turns out that the father of his homecoming date is the Vulture, and that he's been behind everything. What? Peter leaves the dance early to stop Vulture from robbing Stark Tower. Afterwards, he decides not to rush being a superhero, and he turns down a chance to join the Avengers. Elsewhere in New York, there's a really famous surgeon named Dr. Strange. That's his real name. Like proto Tony Stark, he's good at his job, but kind of a dick. After a horribly detailed car accident, his hands are destroyed and his career is ruined. He travels to Nepal for a little Eastern healing, and instead meets a powder lookalike named the Ancient One who does magic. She teaches him to summon energy from other dimensions and perform magic tricks.
Illusion, Michael.
He learns how to teleport, make energy weapons, and turn into a Force Ghost. He also gets a cape that helps him fly. The bad guy, Mads Mikkelsen, wants to let an evil monster named Dormammu destroy the Earth. Strange, his buddy Baron Mordo, and a librarian named Wong stop Mads Mikkelsen with the Eye of Agamotto, which contains the Time Infinity Stone. Strange uses the stone to Groundhog Day himself until Dormammu gets so bored that he gives up, which is a pretty lame way for a villain to go out. At the end, Strange is protecting Earth from extra-dimensional threats by living rent-free in a huge house in Greenwich Village. Soon, he helps Thor and Loki find their dad in Norway. They recover Odin just in time to watch him Luke Skywalker himself into the Force. Then their long-lost sister Hela shows up, breaks Thor's hammer, and quickly conquers Asgard and kills a few supporting characters. Thor and Loki end up on a junk planet where Jeff Goldblum makes gladiators fight. The Hulk is on the planet, and he's actually a gladiator now. Shocking surprise, which you would only know if you saw the trailer, toys, video game poster, or bought popcorn at the theater. Thor meets Valkyrie, an alcoholic Asgardian warrior who split town after Hela killed her friends. All these cookie cats fly back to Asgard, and Jeff Goldblum
I know that.
Hela rips out Thor's eye, Loki
I've seen all the
eyeballs
movies.
Space Stone, and Hulk fights a giant wolf. Thor realizes that his hammer was like Dumbo's feather, and he actually had lightning powers inside of him all along. What? Thor kills Hela by manipulating a
Valkyrie
fire
has
demon into
something to do
destroying
with
Asgard.
Endgame.
Afterwards, a few thousand Asgardian refugees hop on a spaceship and head for Earth, but they're stopped by an even bigger spaceship, which probably belongs to Thanos. Alright guys, that's a recap of every Marvel movie so far.
Oh,
I
that's
hope
before
it prepares you to watch
Endgame.
Avengers
That's
Infinity War. If you're finding us for the first time, please hit that subscribe
But
button.
you
Don't forget to
already
check
watched
out all of
Infinity
our other
War,
great
correct?
Marvel content.
Yeah,
For
I've
Screen
seen it.
Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.
Dude, my hand, it cannot function at night. It's so slow.
Wait, what level are you on?
I don't know. You're correct, I'm on the last level.
Although we saw the peak of his rampage during Avengers Infinity War, Marvel fans know that the Mad Titan Thanos has been kicking ass and taking names around the galaxy for ages. But now, things are definitely coming to a head as we get ready for Endgame, and Thanos has a huge target on his back. Maybe it wasn't the best idea for him to take off his armor and use it as a scarecrow. Although many fans believe Thanos will end up dying at the hands of our heroes during Endgame, we're gonna debunk this theory and let you know how we think things may plan out for the Mad Titan. Getting rid of half of all life in the universe in one fell swoop is a career highlight if you're a supervillain, and it's something Thanos famously accomplished during Infinity War. But this wasn't the first time we took notice that the Mad Titan was skulking around the MCU just waiting for the right moment to strike. All the way back in the first Thor movie, we spotted a glimpse of an Infinity Gauntlet tucked away in Odin's vault. And of course, because we're Marvel comic fans, we couldn't help but come up with a million fan theories about what Odin was doing with an Infinity Gauntlet, and what this could mean for upcoming movies. Hey, scrutinizing every single aspect of Marvel movies is kind of our thing. Eventually, our theories were crushed when Hela revealed the gauntlet was a fake during the movie Thor Ragnarok. Man, besides crushing Mjolnir, slaughtering the citizens of Asgard, and ultimately leading to its destruction, that had to be the worst thing Hela ever did. Many other Marvel comic book fans were excited about this particular Easter egg too. So they
Oh wow, I
were
went back.
surprised by the mid-credit scene of the Avengers. This was the first time we saw Thanos himself on the big screen, and it kicked off a 6-year-long build-up to Infinity War. It was revealed that Thanos was the one behind Loki getting his hands on the Tesseract, which caused a massive amount of destruction, culminating in the Battle of New York. It also made us realize that it would take an entire fleet of superheroes in order to stand a chance against Thanos.
That up there, that's the end game.
And that's exactly what we watched develop in the following years. We saw Thanos again during Guardians of the Galaxy, and originally, the Mad Titan was supposed to have a much larger role in the movie. But Thanos is a massively imposing character, and we don't just mean that literally, although that's certainly true as well. The movie was amazing, and introduced a ton of great heroes into the MCU, but overall, it didn't have any major links to the universe as a whole. Instead, Marvel Studios decided to minimize the amount of Thanos, and save him for a movie where he could have a much larger role. Instead, we mostly had it told to us that Thanos is a really powerful villain.
Thanos?
Who added terrible father to his growing list of misdeeds. The post-credit scene of Avengers Age of Ultron featured both the Mad Titan and the Infinity Gauntlet, but this was another minor appearance on Thanos' part. It was so anticlimactic that some people simply referred to him as the man in the floating chair, which is something we wouldn't advise saying to his face if you ever find your way into the MCU. The point is, Thanos is far more than a throwaway villain, and we don't just mean this in terms of how powerful he is. He's someone who's been lurking in the MCU for a long time, and even in movies where he doesn't appear, his presence is still felt. During Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Thanos didn't need to show up in order to exert his power. The animosity he fostered between Gamora and Nebula was a huge part of the movie, and the main reason Nebula isn't an official Guardian of the Galaxy. She's been so consumed with the hatred for all Thanos has put her through that vengeance is all she can think about. And when you consider that instead of giving her a participation trophy when she lost, Thanos would remove her body parts and replace them with mechanical ones, it's pretty hard to blame her. Thanos and his Black Order are exactly the kind of threats Tony Stark talked about feeling terrified of during Age of Ultron. They're massive, extraterrestrial forces wielding unimaginable power, and even the combined effort of our favorite heroes wasn't enough to stop them. In a way, Thanos perfectly represents the looming threat which has been plaguing Tony and the rest of the Avengers this whole time. Part of the reason we don't
you
anticipate
really
Thanos
pickaxing
being
it.
destroyed for good
No, I'm
during
not.
Endgame
I only did that on
has
accident.
important differences between
I did that on
the
accident.
Thanos we
You
see
by
in the
over
MCU
3
and the
minutes.
one from the comic books. In many ways,
Shut
these
up.
two characters are very similar to one another. They're both massively powerful megalomaniacs who happen to be a particularly
You just missed
pleasant
the
shade of
10-minute
purple.
mark.
But there's one aspect of comic book Thanos that
That was
might
at
be
10
surprising to
minutes.
fans who haven't read the books.
I messed up
Thanos has a
really
love
bad.
life. If you're done gagging, don't
Shut up,
worry.
Nina.
We
There's
aren't
a
going to talk about
Ah,
specifics.
there's a
If you're
delay.
watching this video, your
No.
parents have elected for you not to be present in the health class for a discussion of...
But let's just say that in the comic
Of
books,
babies.
Thanos actually has a girlfriend. And by girlfriend, we mean he's romantically involved with a personification of death itself. But we aren't here to judge. You do you, Thanos. Love is love. Yes, Death is an actual character in Marvel Comics, and she's often depicted as a skeleton head wearing a
I
cloak.
can't
She's
do
a
this,
looker,
bro.
isn't she? Death and Thanos have an extremely
Ready for
long
me?
history together. Kind of like a Ross and Rachel thing, except infinitely more horrifying. We won't go over the entire weird love story, but Thanos is really into her, and would pretty much do anything in order to gain her love and affection. Most of us have been there, but most of us haven't quite gone to the lengths Thanos has been to
can't, my
in
hand
order
feels
to
too
impress
much, I
somebody.
can't.
The comic book version of the events of Infinity War is different, but one major alteration made for the movie version is Thanos' motivation. In the comic books, Thanos wants to collect all of the Infinity Stones and wipe out half of all life in the universe because he wants to impress Lady Death, and thinks this will make her like him. Oh, Thanos, you gotta find someone to love you for who you are. Well, we suppose that's probably easier said than done for someone like Thanos. After he collects all the Infinity Stones, Thanos wipes out half of all life in the universe in order to woo Death, and it works. Thanos gets the girl, at least for a little while. But as we all know, Lady Death doesn't exist within the confines of the MCU, and at this point, we doubt she's going to be showing up. Instead, we got an entirely different motivation for Thanos' actions during his time in the MCU. He explains that he doesn't want to wipe out half of all life in the
You wanna
universe
do,
for personal gain, or to get some hot skeleton makeouts. No, he's doing
Do you want to do Arena?
people who don't see themselves as the villains they
I'm getting
are.
off right
As much
now.
as we love the comic
Huh?
books, we know that not everything
I'm
from
getting
the
off right
books
now.
can be included
Why?
in the MCU. Not only is there simply not enough time, but comic books aren't perfect.
What?
Even though we know it's sacrilegious to point that out. We try to look at the big picture and not complain about minor differences like Drax the Destroyer being green in the comics and bluish in the MCU. But Thanos' motivation was a huge thing to change, and honestly, it was really disappointing at first. We aren't saying we're proud of him or that we condone his actions, but Thanos killing half of all living things to impress a woman? Yeah, that sounds about right in accordance with his character, and really highlights his selfishness and short-sightedness. Instead, in the MCU, we get this quasi-moral conundrum in which Thanos claims he knows there aren't enough resources to sustain all of the current life, and in order to prevent pain and suffering later on, it's better to just wipe out half of all life in the universe with a snap of his fingers, instead of watching life waste away. Now, here's a question for you. We've talked about Thanos' appearances in the MCU prior to Infinity War, and what his presence has meant for our heroes. During all of this time, what clues have we seen that show us that Thanos is concerned with preventing pain and suffering? If your answer is nothing, you're right. If it wasn't, you're reaching. Admit it. If Thanos was truly worried about preventing misery, he could have just as easily have wished for twice as many resources instead of half as many people. But he didn't. And according to the Russo brothers, this isn't because he couldn't have figured it out. Come on, we're accusing the guy of being a ruthless, murderous monster, not of being stupid. They claim Thanos is so full of himself that he's been seeing himself as a type of savior all this time. This
Aw,
makes
the good
sense and
days
ties
where
into the greater
this
good
game used to be
nonsense Thanos
fun.
talks about to try and justify his actions. Thanos throwing Gamora off a cliff on Vormir was a really important scene. Sure, your initial reaction was probably that it showed just how terrible Thanos really is, and that he'll go to great lengths to achieve his goal, but that's not really what we should be taking away from this scene. Consider Red Skull for a moment. We saw the sort of evil things he can accomplish and just how motivated he is to succeed during Captain America the First Avenger. After committing no shortage of atrocities to get his hand on one Infinity Stone, he wound up guarding another one for decades. Why? Because, as we learned during Infinity War, you need to be able to sacrifice someone you love in order to obtain the Soul Stone. And the Red Skull didn't love anybody. When Thanos killed Gamora, it proved that he was indeed capable of love. We're not trying to romanticize it or say that it proves Thanos is actually a good or caring person deep down. It doesn't. Thanos is a selfish and terrible person, and loving someone doesn't mitigate this in any way. The weight of this decision was reaffirmed at the end of the movie, when Thanos was confronted by an adorable little aspect of Gamora inside the Soul Stone, and he looked rather choked up about the whole thing. Marvel Studios really drove it home that Thanos doesn't see himself as the evil brute the rest of us do, and that he's capable of love in some forms. They've spent years building him up as a powerful character, and in between all of the fighting and carnage, made a genuine effort to show that he's capable of emotions and thoughts beyond just wanting to destroy things and thinking about the best and most painful ways to destroy them. Whether you like the comic book or the movie version of Thanos better is entirely up to you. We just wanted to point out that Marvel Studios clearly tried to convey that there's some depth to Thanos, a character they spent years teasing us with before finally introducing us to him. And this is a huge reason why we believe Endgame isn't really going to be the end of Thanos.
Oh my
There
god,
are
of
many
course you watch
moments
the
involving
spoilers.
Thanos which stand out from the rest of his comic book appearances. There's the time Lady Death chose being with him over locking lips with Deadpool, the time Thanos flew around in the Thanos copter, and of course, the time when he retired to a quiet life as a farmer. In the MCU, Thanos doesn't have Lady Death in his life, so it's probably only a matter of time before he ends up on FarmersOnly.com when he gets lonely. Many of us comic book fans were wondering if Farmer Thanos could show up in the MCU, and based on the trailer for Endgame, it appears he does. By now, even non-comic book fans have undoubtedly heard the legend of old Farmer Thanos. It's the classic story of a mad titan achieving all of his dreams, realizing something is missing and deciding to live a life of quiet solitude in farming crops. He even hangs up his armor quite literally in order to both scare away crows and symbolize that he's done with fighting. We love items that do double duty just like that. This was the Thanos we saw during the Endgame trailer, but there's another big difference between comic book Thanos and MCU Thanos here. In the movies, it appears Thanos went straight from the decimation to playing some real-life Stardew Valley, but that's not how it happened in the comic books. The events Infinity War is based on occur during a 6-part miniseries called Infinity Gauntlet. There are many differences between Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War. In the comic books, Thanos also uses an Infinity Gauntlet in order to wipe out half of all life in the universe. But he doesn't go right from being on top of the world to setting down on a farm. Killing all of those people was only the beginning of Thanos' evil deeds in the comic books. He traps Nebula in a living hell, in which he can neither die nor escape. He creates a shrine to worship death, and he sets about tormenting various heroes. Really terrible, no-holds-barred kind of stuff that makes what he did to Vision in Infinity War look like child's play. He suffocates Cyclops, sends Drax the Destroyer back in time, and turns Thor into glass, before shattering him in a million pieces. He's basically the biggest overpowered jerk imaginable for a while, and as you've probably guessed, this immediately goes to his head. In fact, Thanos is so full of himself, he actually transcends his physical body. We're pretty sure this is the highest level of smugness, which us mere mortals could never hope to achieve. But turning into an astral entity has some serious drawbacks, such as not being able to effectively guard your Infinity Gauntlet. This gives Nebula the opportunity to nab it and undo all of the evil Thanos has done. But this isn't the end of the story, because Nebula's motivations are kind of suspect too. Even in the MCU, Nebula isn't really a superhero. She's not someone who fights for what they believe is right, like say Captain America. The only thing she seems to care about is tearing down Thanos, and once that's accomplished, what's her next move? Would she use her newfound powers for good or for evil? Unlike most of the other characters in the MCU, it's kinda hard to predict what Nebula would do with an Infinity Gauntlet, because up until now, her only real motivation has been revenge. Even in the comic books, Nebula doesn't really use the gauntlet to restore life because it's the right thing to do. She does it to make Thanos angry. Most people don't have to work so hard to disappoint their parents, but Nebula isn't most people, or even mostly people at this point, considering all those, robotic parts. Anyway, in the comics, the good guys eventually get the Infinity Gauntlet away from the unpredictable Nebula, and even Thanos helps out. You see, a quick peek at his soul via the Soul Gem reveals that deep down, he knew he was unworthy of wielding the gauntlet. Sure, she does it out of her own anger, but Thanos knowingly helped out in his own way. After order is relatively restored, that's when Thanos decides to retire to farming. Right now in the MCU, we haven't gotten to this point yet. Thanos hasn't admitted to any weaknesses. He hasn't done anything to redeem himself, and quite frankly, it doesn't seem like the MCU is done with him by a long shot.
Oh yeah. You're much more of a Thanos.
We've talked a lot about Thanos specifically, but let's now change gears for a moment and talk about what makes a good villain. We love Marvel movies, and they've really mastered portraying compelling heroes that we can't get enough of. But it seems like they've struggled to make us feel the same way about their villains for the most part.
This is the Mandarin.
I know, it's comparison.
We're leaving out Loki for now, but don't worry, we'll get to him later. The first major villains we saw in the MCU were Obadiah Stane from Iron Man, the Abomination from the Incredible Hulk, and Red Skull from Captain America the First Avenger. Now, we aren't saying these villains are terrible, but they pretty much exist to be the polar opposites of the superheroes they're fighting against. It was like they only existed in order to establish the powers and personalities of Iron Man, Hulk, and Captain America, instead of being interesting and compelling characters in their own right. Even as Marvel Studios developed their superheroes, many of their villains remained stunted. Yes, they either want profit, revenge, or power, but many of them end up being pretty two-dimensional. At the end of the day, they just want whatever the hero of the movie doesn't want, and that's not very compelling in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're creating a universe instead of creating a standalone movie. Peyton Reed directed the movie Ant-Man, and even he admits Yellow Jacket felt like most other MCU villains, and he failed to stand out on his own. He was just a caricature of an evil businessman who cared more about making profits than protecting human life. And we know he was evil because he wanted to use Hank Pym's technology in a different way than Hank did. This is a trap so many villains fall into, and we think it's something Marvel has finally recognized. Now let's look at some compelling villains, which is exactly what we saved talking about Loki for. Is Loki really an evil person? He's done bad things, but we've also watched him struggle against a father that, quite frankly, treats him like garbage, as well as living in the shadow of a brother who even admits he was a jerk and not at all ready to be a ruler. Then, when we see Loki finally ruling Asgard during Ragnarok, he's pretty much been maintaining the status quo. It's a pretty stark contrast when compared to how an actually evil but uncompelling villain like Hela would rule. Another great villain is Eric Killmonger from Black Panther. At the end of the movie, T'Challa ended up taking Wakanda public and helping out their people, which is something Killmonger was advocating for during the movie. T'Challa and Killmonger agreed on many things, but they employed very different methods when it came to achieving their goals. It's clear that Marvel Studios tried to make Thanos a step above your average cookie-cutter villain. They replaced his romantic motivation with one designed to give him more depth and make him more morally ambiguous. Whether or not they succeeded in doing so is another issue for another YouTube video. But let's acknowledge the intent here. They've given us a character who's capable of love, trying to do the right thing despite his own personal flaws and failings, and has all the makings of an interesting villain. And let's not forget just how physically powerful Thanos is. Even without the Infinity Gauntlet, defeating him in battle seems unlikely enough, let alone decimating him to the point where he can never make a comeback. Some people wonder if Thanos is going to end up being one of the good guys in Avengers Endgame. After all, in the comic books, he does fight alongside some of our heroes in order to help them accomplish their goals. And it seems as though we're meant to feel some sympathy for him at the end of Infinity War, when we learn his mission has cost him everything he held dear. But as we just discussed, good characters, whether in movies, books, or any other form of media, are complicated. Many of them don't fit neatly into the hero or villain box, and that's what makes them interesting. Most people would readily agree that both Iron Man and Captain America are heroes. Yet in the movie Captain America Civil War, they were exchanging blows with one another. These two heroes were on opposite sides of a serious issue, yet we refer to them both as heroes, instead of one of them becoming a villain. Just as one Civil War doesn't turn a hero into a villain, one good deed doesn't turn a villain into a hero.
I never thought people had been hurt, lied to me.
We don't think Thanos is ever going to turn into a good guy who is heartily welcomed into the Avengers, but we do think there's a great chance that Marvel Studios will decide to keep him in the ambiguously evil zone, where Loki has spent pretty much his entire MCU existence. The fact that Thanos doesn't hail from Earth makes keeping him alive all the more likely. There's no shortage of places he could hide out until he's needed again to present a threat, help out, or simply complicate matters. The threat of Thanos and the danger he presents has long loomed over the MCU, and we just don't see that being completely done away with during Endgame. Although the movies and comics differ in many ways, we don't anticipate Thanos being any easier good in the MCU than he is in the comic books. In the comic books, a character who has a lot to do with the Infinity Stones is Adam Warlock, who is revealed at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Although the third movie in that franchise has been delayed, it's still thought that he'll be a major player in the MCU at some point in time. This could be yet another reason why it'd make sense to keep Thanos around, since he and Adam Warlock have an interesting and adversarial relationship in the comic books. We've talked a lot about what's going to happen to Thanos during Endgame and beyond, but what about the Infinity Stones themselves? They're immensely powerful objects which can be used for either great good or terrible evil. Would Doctor Strange have been able to defeat Dormammu if he didn't have the power of the Time Stone at his disposal? And the Mind Stone is responsible for Vision being able to exist at all. These Stones are capable of great things, but in the wrong hands, they can clearly mean disaster. In the comic books, the Infinity Stones are responsible in no small part for shaping the evolution of Adam Warlock. Although he uses them to obtain great power and has good intentions, ultimately they're deemed too strong for any one person to wield. Instead, they're divided up amongst various heroes, with Adam Warlock maintaining possession of the Soul Stone. With the firing of Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn and the delay of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Adam Warlock's future in the MCU is uncertain. But since he was introduced at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we're guessing he's going to show up at some point, and it would be truly difficult to create a version of Adam Warlock that never encounters the Infinity Stones or Thanos. So, if we're waiting on Adam Warlock to get his highly anticipated movie, then it stands to reason the Infinity Stones and Thanos are probably going to be sticking around. The Infinity Stones may be deemed too important and useful to destroy, and Thanos may be too powerful and too good of a character to get rid of. It's hard to say what's coming in the future of the MCU, since the studio tends to be quiet about this sort of thing. But if they even attempt to stay true to the comic books, we think that Thanos is going to make it past Endgame and to whatever comes afterwards. Now that you've learned more about the comic book version of the Mad Titan, what do you think this means for Avengers Endgame? Will Thanos actually meet his end, or will he continue to live on in the MCU? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more debunked videos. Thanks for watching.
Well, it's about damn time. Yes, about 2.5 years ago, I made this Marvel Cinematic Universe in chronological order video, and ever since then, the question I've seen the most is, when's the next one coming out? So, with Avengers Infinity War coming out in about a week, I thought this would be as good a time as any to do one last one of these. And yes, this will most likely be the last one of these MCU chronologies, because after this universe is going to be way too big to recount. This video is hard enough to make already, trust me. With the movies and the TV shows and the short films and even the tie-in comics. I do realize this video is ridiculously, hilariously long, but considering everything I'm talking about here in total is about 256 hours long, condensing it into 2 hours I think isn't half bad. But yeah, maybe don't watch this all in one sitting. Or do. That would be impressive. Now I need to just put up a few disclaimers up front. If you want to skip to the main part of the video, you can click to this time. Go ahead, I won't be too offended. For one, some of these dates aren't going to be 100% accurate, a few might be assumptions. I also might mess up a name here and there, because there are a lot of weird names of artifacts and planets. Also, considering the stuff I need to cram into this, I will be painting with a pretty broad brush for some of these, especially the TV shows. Like, I can't go into every tiny subplot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as much as I might want to. And as if it wasn't super obvious, spoilers ahead. For everything. Like, I mean, everything. Alright, with all that said, sit back, relax, and let's get this thing started. So before we actually get into the events and everything, there are a few things you should know about this universe. Basically, think of this universe as having two main sections. There's the normal universe first, which has Earth, and then branches off to the rest of space. It goes to other galaxies and planets like the Guardians, and even further to planets like Asgard and the rest of the realms. Now, I know they're called realms, not planets, but from my research and understanding, the 9 realms are just planets deep out in space. And these 9 specifically are connected to each other by a kind of system called Yggdrasil. Basically, just think 9 important different planets connected to each other, and they've got names from Norse mythology. For the sake of not starting massive arguments in the comments, I'm just going to call them planet realms from here on out. The main planet realm is Asgard, where the aliens living there have technology so advanced that they appear to be gods. And also, yeah, have some magic powers which make them pretty godly. But then, beyond this regular universe, in this other section, there are hundreds, thousands, an infinite number of parallel dimensions to this world. All of this is called the multiverse. We mainly stay in our dimension throughout this, but in the story there'll be a lot of references to other dimensions, basically universes that exist in Doctor Strange portal away from ours. So there are planets, which the realms fall into, and then there are other dimensions, which I'll point out along the way. Okay, I know I may already have lost some people in that setup, but now let's actually get started. So before the universe existed, several billion years ago, there were 6 singularities that eventually morphed into tiny gems with the powers of the universe. They have the powers of time, power, reality, space, the soul, and the mind. In this pre-universe era, don't really know what else to call it, there's a race of aliens called the Dark Elves, who rule this place because it's all comprised of darkness, and they love that. They can't get enough of that darkness. Then the universe starts, and the Dark Elves don't like this, because no more infinite darkness, so they want to return the universe to how it was before, without all these planets and species and whatnot. So the albino leader of the Dark Elves, Malekith, gets his hands on the Reality Stone and turns it into a substance called the Ether. Basically, he turns the stone into a substance he can use as a weapon. Then, as the universe evolves, these giant space god type things called Celestials turn up, from where we don't really know. They have the power to manipulate huge amounts of energy, and so they're able to use the most powerful objects in the universe, the Infinity Stones. They use them to wipe out planets and civilizations wherever they want, because they're just kind of pricks like that. One of these Celestials is called Ego, and he finds being a space god is kind of lonely. He discovers he can manipulate the matter around him and create shells upon shells around himself until he's an actual planet. Being a planet's kind of boring though, so Ego creates a smaller avatar of himself to explore the universe. Over the next millions of years, he finds tons of planets around the universe and decides he wants to conquer all of them. He does this with a well thought out plan, which starts with planting little seeds on the planets that can turn those planets into extended versions of himself. But to activate them, he needs the power of another Celestial. So how do you get another Celestial? You bang anything that moves in the entire universe, apparently. Ego gets busy across the whole universe and then sends people to retrieve the kids he makes for him. One of these retrievers is eventually Yondu, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Ego's pretty pissed though, because none of these kids inherit his celestial powers, and so they're useless to him. So he kills them all and stores their corpses in the lower part of the planet, which is technically inside of himself. Ew. Alright, at this point, Earth has finally formed, kind of. And a meteorite filled with a super strong element called vibranium crash lands in what will become Africa. Because it's awesome, the vibranium gives the plant life around it special powers and extra strength. Move ahead a few million years, and now humans have evolved on Earth. In Africa, 5 tribes of humans discover the vibranium and decide to build a home around it and call it Wakanda. The tribes are always fighting, until one day, one of the tribe's warriors gets a message from the panther goddess Bast to consume this plant affected by the vibranium called the heart-shaped herb. Okay, pause. Yes, there's apparently a panther goddess. Maybe this was just a hallucination this guy had or something, because there isn't really another explanation for that in this universe. Whatever. Maybe it does exist. Important part anyway is he consumes the vibranium-powered plant, and he gets super strength, speed, and enhanced instincts from it. Everyone else is like, yeah, right, that's pretty cool. He should be our king. And so the tribes are united under his rule and live in peace in Wakanda. Except for the Jabari tribe, who decide to live in the mountains instead. The guy who eats the heart-shaped herb also becomes the Black Panther, warrior protector of Wakanda. Over the centuries, the mantle of King and Black Panther is passed down with the help of the heart-shaped herb. Also, because they have a boatload of vibranium, over the centuries, Wakanda develops into an incredibly technologically advanced country, far more advanced than anywhere else in the world. However, they decide to hide themselves, so they don't have to share their tech and wealth with the otherwise pretty sucky world at the time, and so disguise themselves as a poor third world country. Meanwhile, this being, somewhere else in the world, who might be human, might not, it's not really clear, called Agamotto, discovers the mystic arts. Basically, he realizes magic is real. The mystic arts essentially allows you to manipulate those alternate dimensions I mentioned before, and also do other cool stuff, like make magic shields. So because of this, he creates a little club called the Masters of the Mystic Arts, with a bunch of humans, and they start training in this art of energy manipulation, aka magic, really. At some point, he uses his magic powers to get his hands on the Time Infinity Stone, which he uses to make the Eye of Agamotto so he can control it. Basically a fancy necklace. He puts up 3 sanctums around the world to protect the world from threats from other dimensions. These 3 sanctums are Hong Kong, London, and New York, or what will eventually be these places. Threats from other dimensions, you ask? Why yes, like for example, this big amorphous threat called Dormammu, who is the lord of the Dark Dimension. The Dark Dimension is one of those many dimensions that exist out there in the multiverse. Time does not exist there, that's an important detail. Dormammu wants to conquer every dimension in the multiverse, because he's a giant, super powerful bad guy, and so he just wants to consume worlds. It's also possible to draw power from the Dark Dimension that'll, let's say, let you live for a super long time. But it's generally not a good idea to do so, because Dormammu can influence you and come through and destroy literally everything. So you know, it's not recommended. Now over to a guy called Odin, who is the heir to the throne of that planet realm I mentioned before, Asgard. Currently the king is this guy called Bor. In Asgard there's a tale told of Ragnarok, this event that will destroy Asgard. A giant fire demon called Surtur is going to do that, using the Eternal Flame, which basically gives him loads of power and can resurrect dead people. Odin doesn't like the sound of any of that, so he fights Surtur and locks him up on another planet realm called Muspelheim. Then he locks the Eternal Flame in his big Scrooge McDuck-style vault back home in Asgard, hoping to stop Ragnarok from ever happening. Please take note, as this is the first of countless times Odin sucks at hiding stuff. Fast forward a bit, and the convergence is happening. Basically, this means that all the 9 planet realms align with each other, and so they're much easier to get to. Like, literal portals open up between them, and the fabric of reality kind of starts getting weird. So that race of aliens from before the universe, called the Dark Elves, who are currently chilling on the planet realm of... God damn it. take this opportunity to try and destroy the universe again using the Ether/Reality Stone. They're stopped by these Guardians led by King Bor, who also take the Ether from them. Bor puts the Ether away where no one can find it, kind of. Malekith and some of his troops manage to escape, and they put themselves into hibernation until their next chance comes. So now, back out in space, there's this race of aliens called the Kree. What you need to know about them is that they're just the worst. Like, pretty much all the time. They're always at war with some other aliens, and at this particular time, they're suffering huge casualties in a war, and need a way to get the upper hand. So they're trying to search for that. Eventually, they come across Earth, and decide humans aren't exactly good weapons, but if they're modified, they can become good weapons. And so they decide to make Inhumans. Now listen up, because the next part of this is slightly complicated, and very important to the rest of the story. The Kree experiment on humans, and give some of them powers that only manifest when they're exposed to a mist called Terrigen Mist. This mist is released by Terrigen crystals. This whole process is called Terrigenesis. Once you become inhuman, you usually just get some sort of superpower. And maybe deformity. Who knows? The Kree put these Terrigen crystals in these weird-shaped things called diviners. While they were there, the Kree decided also to go to Puerto Rico, where they built a giant underground city where you can easily release the Terrigen Mist to activate your dormant Inhuman powers. If a human with the Inhuman gene touches this diviner Terrigen crystal carrier, they get visions of a big old map of that city, so they can go there and get their powers. Confused yet? We're just getting started. So the Kree are happily making superpowered Inhumans, but after a while they're like, hey, these kinda suck. Let's get out of here. One of the first Inhumans they made from this mine hunter turns out to be a super powerful and dangerous Inhuman called Hive, who has a tentacle face. He's so powerful that the Kree want to get rid of him. So they find a planet called Mavith, or Mavith, out in the universe, I'm gonna call it Mavith, and build a portal called the Monolith to easily transport the Inhuman there to get rid of him. They do so, and he destroys the entire planet, turning it into a barren wasteland. However, this Hive had some followers back on Earth, and they believed that eventually he could be brought back to rule the world. So they started trying to get him back and built a whole society around the idea. This secret organization became known as Hydra. Yes, Hydra wasn't always just crazy Nazis. They were originally crazy tentacle monster worshippers. At one point, Hydra gets its hands on the Monolith and tries to send some people to get Hive, but they never come back. Anyway, the Kree get the hell away from Earth, but one poor Kree died while there, and so his corpse is just left behind. At some point here as well, some of the Inhumans that are left on Earth find a way to get to the moon. Through a portal, maybe? Anyway, they get to the moon, build a city there, and set up their own monarchy and society, where the people who get good powers get to be royalty and live awesome lives, while the people who get less good powers have to work in the mines. And remember, you're supposed to root for the rich people here, for some reason. Now back on Asgard, Odin has become the king, and he has a daughter called Hela, who is now the heir to the throne. Odin decides he wants to expand Asgard's power and bring his kingdom more glory. So he goes around the 9 planet realms with Hela and conquers them, sometimes by means that aren't necessarily very sanitary. Eventually though, all Tai Lung style, Hela's ambition grows too big and she gets a little too, let's say, crazy with murdering, so Odin banishes her to the planet realm of Hell, because Odin, in case you haven't realized yet, is kind of a bad dude. Odin's kind of ashamed of all the terrible stuff him and Hela did together, so he tries to cover it all up and act like it never existed, like the hero he is. So now, finally, we're in the AD. Back to that multiverse thing, where there are a bunch of different dimensions. In another one of these dimensions, there's this awesome mystical city called Kunlun, which appears on Earth somewhere in China about every 15 years or so. In that city, this group of monks, called the Order of the Crane Mother, teach the art of Qi, this mystical life energy in every living thing. Basically, it can help you heal people super fast, or it can be used for fighting purposes. Also, did I mention that dragons live in the city? Because they do. Yep, Game of Thrones style dragons. Over the years, all of them die out, except for one called Shao Lao. There's also always one special trainee in the Order of the Crane Mother, who, if they're super amazing at punching and kicking, gets to fight the dragon Shao Lao, and win the powers of the immortal Iron Fist.
I'm the Iron Fist. I'm the Iron Fist. I am the Iron Fist. I'm the Iron Fist. I'm the Iron Fist. And I'm the Iron Fist.
That means you can channel your chi into one fist to make it really strong. Plus you can heal people and you're really good at fighting. The Iron Fist's job is to defeat the enemies of the Order of the Crane Mother and guard the secret passageway to Kunlun, and the mantle is passed down from generation to generation. Think of it as this city's Black Panther, minus the cool outfit. But things aren't all sunshine and child beatings in Kunlun. There are 5 students who want immortality using their chi. The Order of the Crane Mother is like... And so these 5 get banished to Earth. Those 5 are called Bakudo, Madame Gao, Alexandra, Murakami, and Sawande. They band together to form an evil organization called the Hand. Very sinister name. They figure out that around the world, there are bones from all those dragons that died scattered underground. And through these bones, they can get an elixir that lets you bring back people from the dead, so you can live a super long time, which is what they want. The Hand starts trying to conquer Asia, getting their own little army of ninjas together, so another group called the Chaste, who don't like that, stand up against them, and they battle for centuries to come. The Chaste are big believers in Kunlun and the Iron Fist, and they'd really like an Iron Fist to help them out. The Hand keep going around being evil though, and at one point they destroy the city of Pompeii. So Hela is still locked away in hell, and she hates it, so she tries to escape. Odin sends his army of super badass warriors called the Valkyries to stop her. They do it, but all of them die in the process, except for one of them, called Brunhilde? I'm gonna call her Valkyrie for the rest of this. She's pretty shaken after seeing literally all of her friends get murdered, so she goes off into the universe, as her faith in Asgard and all that is shaken. She ends up on this junk planet out in space called Sakaar, where more or less all the garbage in the universe goes, where she slowly turns into Han Solo mixed with Archer. Also, Odin has another kid with his lovely Asgardian wife, Frigga, called Thor. Thor is now the heir to the throne of Asgard, because Hela totally doesn't count. Later on another planet realm called Jotunheim, there's this species called the Frost Giants who want to conquer Earth, aka Midgard, which if you haven't guessed, yes, Earth is another planet realm. So they start their invasion in the heart of the Earth, Scandinavia. In Norway, the Asgardians meet them and battle them all the way back to Jotunheim, where they defeat them. Also, the king of the Frost Giants has a baby, but he just leaves him out to die. Odin finds that baby and he's like, oh, it's cute. So he keeps him and names him Loki, and he raises him with his actual son Thor, never telling him that he's actually a Frost Giant. Nice of him. He also negotiates a peace treaty with the Frost Giants and takes their source of power, the Casket of Ancient Winters. He also puts that down in his vault. Thor and Loki grow up together, and they love each other, even though they don't always get along.
He transformed himself into a snake, and he knows that I love snakes, so I went to pick up the snake to admire it, and he transformed back into himself, and he was like, yeah, it's me, and he stabbed me. We were mate all the time.
Loki is generally just kind of envious of Thor, because he clearly gets more attention, and Thor also gets kind of bratty and arrogant as he grows up, because, hey, he's a prince. So remember those blue aliens called the Kree? Well, they're still hated by actually everyone, and so they end up starting a war with this huge empire in space called the Nova Empire. This empire spans a lot of planets. That war lasts for a long, long time. Don't worry, we'll get back to it. Asgard also has this army of special soldiers who get super enraged and destroy everything, called the Berserker Army. One member of this army, after a battle on Earth, decides to stay there, and he ends up living in a quaint little monastery in Ireland. His berserker staff makes a person super strong, so he splits it up into 3 pieces and distributes it around the world. Odin is still a pretty busy king, and so he gets his hands on another Infinity Stone, the Space Stone, which is also called the Tesseract. He's like, hey, this object of insane power, I have to hide it in the most secure place in the universe, Norway. And so he does. Also, this Asgardian woman whose voice ensnares men, called Lorelei, goes around the 9 planet realms collecting an army of slave men. She's stopped and imprisoned by an Asgardian warrior named Sifto. Still in Asgard, yes, a bunch of Asgard stuff happens in this time. There's this blacksmith called Haldir, which if I was using my Danish voice, but this video isn't in Danish, so Haldir. Anyway, this guy finds this artifact called the Cup of Glory, but Loki sees this, and because he's Loki, thinks of a plan to steal it. He insults Haldir and gets chased by Haldir's son Ronok. Thor stops the chase, and Loki says they should have a contest of skill, intelligence, and virtue to settle the matter, in teams. They go through this challenge, and through his tricks and schemes, Loki steals the Cup of Glory in the process. However, through circumstances that really aren't important here, Thor is arrogant and tries to take the cup. They all realize that the cup brings out the worst in them. Loki admits what he did. Haldir goes crazy with power because of the cup and tries to seal it and kill Thor. And in the end, Thor wins the fight, and that's the end of that Burger King tie-in comic. I'm not even kidding. Nothing really important happened for about 300 years. By the 1800s, Hydra's still sending people through portals to the Mammoth to get their tentacle leader back. Hive, on the other side, keeps killing them and taking on their bodily forms to stop himself from dying. Some pieces are also cut off from the monolith and given to the biggest fat cats in Hydra. Now, over the next 100 years, Hydra sort of moves away from the whole tentacle monster thing and becomes more focused on just world domination, as you do. Still, there are some people out there who are still big fans of this thing. Also, the Hand's still rocking about just being evil and stuff, just don't forget. In the 1930s, this kid called Howard Stark makes some pretty crazy inventions because he's a genius. He uses these and his other brilliant ideas to become a multimillionaire at a relatively young age. Then there's this sickly, skinny, sad kid called Steve Rogers in Brooklyn, who has a heart of gold. This other guy called Bucky Barnes helps him with some bullies, and so they become besties for decades to come. Like, a lot of decades. Now, by 1934, one of the biggest members of Hydra is a guy called Johann Schmidt. Now that the Nazis have taken over Germany, he wants to join up with them. Schmidt meets with Hitler, and he's like, hey, I'm evil, you're evil, let's do this. And Hitler's like, sounds good. Schmidt also meets with a scientist called Arnim Zola. Yes, Arnim, not Armin, and starts working closely with him. Hydra is now the Nazi Deep Science Division, and Schmidt has quite a few things on his to-do list. He wants to turn himself into a super soldier weapon for Hydra, he wants to develop special weapons for the Nazis to use, and he's also looking into finding the mythical Tesseract, since it'll probably be pretty useful in the whole taking over the world thing. Howard Stark, in his billionairing, also meets Dr. Abraham Erskine, a German scientist who is working on a serum that enhances a person's physical abilities to the max. A super soldier serum, if you will. The Nazis are like, hey, a super soldier serum, how convenient. And so Schmidt captures and forces Erskine to make him a serum while threatening to kill his whole family. Hydra continues to develop high-tech mech suits and weapons, but don't have the extra oomph to make them super lasery and cinematic yet. The year after, Steve Rogers' mom, Sarah Rogers, dies of tuberculosis. Steve's now an orphan, but Bucky helps him get through the tough times. He's with him to the end of the line. Over in Soviet Russia, the Red Room program is started by the Soviet government. This is designed to brainwash and train young women to be super deadly assassins. This includes handcuffs, shooting, forceful sterilization, and ballet. A little girl, who will later be called Dottie Underwood, is trained in this program to become a super spy. Howard Stark has all this money and all this tech lying around, so he starts up a company for all of his awesome inventions called Stark Industries, which starts dealing in science and eventually weapons. With the help of his all-new resources, Stark also comes across some of that vibranium that's still left over in Africa, and takes the tiny amount he finds back to the USA to work on. So now there's this woman called Peggy Carter. She's a codebreaker in England, working for the British. She's also going to get married to this guy called Fred. Her brother and BFF Michael recommends her to be a field agent, because she's such a badass. But Peggy's like, I can't fight, I want to get married to this guy you hate, Michael. But then, Michael dies, and this pushes Peggy to become a field agent and call off her wedding. Peggy meets and starts working with Colonel Chester Phillips in the US Army. Through these connections, she joins the Strategic Scientific Reserve, or SSR, the American version of Hydra, designed to fight Hydra. Think of it as early S.H.I.E.L.D. Meanwhile, Stark shows off his new vibranium and is immediately attacked by Hydra assassins, so he also ends up joining Chester Phillips and the SSR to fight Hydra. Back over at Hydra, Schmidt injects himself with an unfinished version of the super soldier serum, and it works. He gets enhanced. But it goes a little wrong, and he is horribly disfigured, giving him a big ugly red skull. Peggy Carter, now with help from Stark, goes on one of her first missions and rescues Dr. Erskine from Red Skull, who comes over to join the good side and make a super soldier serum for the Americans. Steve Rogers is now trying to join the US Army after the US enters World War II, but is denied because his amazing spirit is outweighed by his not-so-amazing physique. Bucky tries to help, but it goes nowhere. Howard Stark also starts helping with the war efforts more, and he ends up on the Manhattan Project. Soon though, after a lot of searching, Schmidt finally finds the Tesseract in Norway and goes over and
Daniel,